Alright, so as you can see, I'm showing you the extruder. Um, I don't know if you remember from the earlier videos where I mentioned that some of these pieces, for example, in here, it seemed like I was missing something, so I couldn't tie in this properly, otherwise the arm wouldn't move. This wheel felt kind of loose to me, and this assembly here, like this screw, if I tied it all the way up, would actually hit this screw in here, and obviously we would have no flex here. I couldn't adjust this. So what I ended up doing down here was I put a spring here to keep tension on this screw to keep this from coming loose. But as you can see, it's probably difficult for you to see back here, but you can see a lot of the filament that was shredded. And I keep having issues with shredding, even though it's extruding. For some reason, in certain spots here, as it's moving across, the filament looks fine in most of it, but there's some point where it actually gouges the filament. It only does it every once in a while and only on certain spots. So that tells me that something's going on with this as I expected, that it's not working properly. So I went ahead and bought another one from another seller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disassemble this one and I compare them side by side to show you the difference of both of them. And then ultimately I'll put in the new one and see how it works out. I know like the wheel getting built up and ripping the filament many times has to do with the temperature, but it seems like everything's flowing properly. It just seems on certain spots it'll build, and when it builds, then it causes this to sort of get stuck and strip. So we'll see what happens with the new one, but I do want to show you some of the differences because I think they are fairly apparent. So next, I'm going to switch to showing you them side by side after I pull this one apart. All right. So as you can see here on the left is the original one that I disassembled, that I had installed. The one on the right is the old one. On the left is the new one. So I'll start by the arms. So I'm just going to take out this screw from up here, and I will take this out because this version didn't come with them. So I'm just going to remove this just so we can get a better comparison. And this one has the wheel, but I'm leaving it on for a reason. As you can see, this has the space in there and a smaller hole. This has a bigger hole, right? So the insert that I was talking about, which this one's missing even though it's different, I still do believe there should be an insert in there because I kind of tie in it properly all the way without it becoming solidly stuck. On this one, you see here, it's an insert. This insert goes here, which makes it look a lot like this one, right? The difference being, this insert goes all the way to the other side. So when this gets tightened, it actually comes out just a little bit off the lip here. So when this gets tightened properly, this will still move. As you can see, I'm grabbing it hard on both ends and I'm still able to move it. So that's what I was expecting. There should be something else in here. I don't know for this version what it would be, but I do believe there should be something else in here. So that's the first major difference. This one had the black screw, this has the black screw that goes here. But again, if it gets tightened, it moves properly. So that's the first difference, right? So let me take this out for a moment. As you can see, this one only has the one arm. This one has two arms here. That's not that big of a deal, I don't think. So let's see what the difference here is. This has the wheel, so I'm going to put the wheel on this one. Again, similar wheel. Now, if you look at this, once I pull this one out, it'll become more clear. The hole and the screw are about the same diameter. Obviously, it's going to be a little smaller. So if I put this on here, and I'm going to tighten it lightly. This is not the right screwdriver, so hopefully this will work. So right here it's tightened lightly. You notice as I'm spinning it, almost no visible play, right? It's solid on there because this screw fits for the most part the hole with this bearing, right? So it's properly sized, no movement. If you look at this one, I know you cannot see it because of the other arm, but I'm just going to push it. You see how much play that has? Up and down in all directions. It has play. You can see if I put it like this and I push it up, I would say that's at least 1 or 2/16 of play. So what I was guessing was happening was because of all that play, as the wheel is spinning and it's pushing filament in, this is coming up and down, causing different pressure loads. So I'm going to try to pull this one apart with the screwdriver. It may not work. Yep, it worked. So if I pull this screw out and this wheel, you can see it's almost of the same dimensions as the other one. But if you look at the screw almost goes right through it. You see how it just plays around? So right here. So this screw is not the proper screw for this. I'm sure I could probably modify this to have a thicker screw. I could drill and tap this to a bigger screw that'll fit this. So this, I think I can fix. As far as this issue here, I'm not 100% sure how I would fix that, but my guess is that I would probably possibly drill this out and put a similar insert like this. I'm not sure if that would work or not, but I'll decide what I will do with that. I don't want to lose those. So again, to me, this was the main culprit here. The fact that this one would wobble so much. As far as these go, very similar. You can see the indentation here, this here. This has the holes here. This one though does have an indentation for these screws that came with it. This one did not come with these screws, unfortunately. So looking at this, they're of similar size, but again, this doesn't have the indentation, so I'm not sure if this screw is going to go all the way through. It barely goes through, so there is a mounting bracket on these. So actually, let me go get one. I happen to have an extra one. Alright, so here's the same type of mounting bracket that's on the 3D printer. So this one will go down on the bottom, but I'm going to put it up here for better visibility. It doesn't really go through. So it looks on the surface I won't be able to use these screws. So I may have to buy bigger ones, or one option I do have, which I'm not sure at the moment if I'm going to do, I could drill this hole bigger. Since it's so offset to the edge here, I'm concerned that if I try to drill this, this might crack, because I'm guessing this is some sort of aluminum composite. This one actually feels a little heavier. It might be because of these, but it just feels heavier. Feels more like a solid aluminum. This one feels more like a lighter composite. So I'm not sure. I might just try to find longer screws. So we'll see. I think I probably will try to go with longer screws, or I might actually have them already. As far as the springs go, this is for the new one on my left, and this for the old one on my right. Very similar. The spring on the left, it's actually a little bigger, but I don't see a problem with that. This one also has the screw that goes on top. Now, one difference for this one, let me move this bracket out of the way. This one has the screw on the bottom where I had to put the spring. For this one, it actually comes with these little screws. Put it here so you can see it. The little screw. And that goes here from the top. At least that's how I'm understanding it. So while that is there, when the spring is placed here and is compressed, it will not move around. You can see it won't slide out of the way. So this one goes on top. It doesn't have that issue that I had with the other one. So I think that's a good thing that it has that way. So I don't have to worry about the spring and that coming loose. So I like that as well. It also has a smaller screw. I don't know if it's a duplicate for this one or they meant it for this hole, but my guess is a duplicate for this one or some other purpose that I'm yet to identify. It might actually go on the bottom here to go against this one here to keep it from coming loose. And my assumption is that that's what it's for, because there's no way that if I put it here, it would fit all the way across. And this does not necessarily look like an M3 to me. It could be, but it does not look like it to me. So if I put it in here, it actually does seem to tie in against this one. So I'm gonna assume that's where it goes. So I have the screw for this side because that's here. I need the screw for this side, which I have from the previous one, which is not a problem. I need a screw for these because the ones that I have for this are not gonna fit. Now my question at the moment is, since these screws are offset inward, do they line up with these? So let's take a quick look here. I'm just gonna shove a screw from the other end. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Sorry that I come out of camera. But I'm pretty zoomed in so you can see this. So with these lined up, more or less, you can see right through these. So it looks like it's lined up properly. So that should not be a problem. I just really need longer screws. You can see these do not even come out. There's no way that they're gonna try and tie up to the motor. My guess, I probably need about 3 millimeters longer. So, like I said, this did not work out well for me. So if you're buying these versions, which I see a lot of these, and I almost bought one of these, but they all looked exactly the same. It looked like it had the exact same components from the pictures. I couldn't tell if this screw was properly sized or not. It's very difficult from the pictures, at least from the ones that I saw online. This one seemed, from what I could see, seemed proper, at least from the pictures. So that's why I went with this one. I actually contacted the seller of these. They refunded me a little bit over 50% of my cost since they didn't want to pay for shipping it back. It would cost about what I paid for it, and I was going to end up keeping it. They were only willing to do that much, which is fine. I bought this one for, I believe, was less than I paid for this one, but of course, this one came with a bracket like this and a few extra components. So I'm not too worried about that. I think this will work better. But what I will do is I will assemble this one, of course, after I find the screws for this, and we'll try it out. Now, I'm expecting better results because this wheel, to me, this is very important that it goes properly against this sprocket without moving around. Like, to me, all common sense says this should not be dancing around. If you're putting pressure against it and you're pulling a filament, if this is moving up and down, you're gonna have issues. So this is the sprocket that came with this, so I will use this one instead of the one that came with this. I'm gonna try this purely as it came to see what happens. I will be reusing these pieces from this one to put on here and on the bottom on the other one. So I'll show you once I have this assembled, and I'll show you the assembly of this one, I suppose. So, and I'll merge these videos together into one video once I'm doing this assembly.